Kate Crouch here again at the Missoula Art Museum for Embodied Engagement. Today we are exploring Neal Ambrose-Smith's work, and we're going to start with this piece right here. Neal Ambrose-Smith is a descendant of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes of the Flathead Nation, and so he's really familiar with Missoula. In fact, he's doing a residency this October in Missoula, which is something we're all looking forward to. So his collection that we're looking at today is really interesting because it explores duality as well as working in tandem. And the first way that we know that this is what the exhibit is exploring is the name of it, which is in both the traditional Salish as well as in English, and it's called Where Are You Going? The piece that we're starting with is the storyteller. And you can see right here, central is a coyote. And the symbol of the coyote, the trickster, someone who has lots of changing things happening. So in this piece, coyote is central, and you can see there's quite a bit of action happening around him as we're invited to contemplate our own stories as well as think about stories of the past and maybe the future. So there's also an idea of multiple identities. You can see a coyote wearing a suit is pretty silly. And I have some ideas about what is going through his mind, but we'll get to that in a moment. Let's start our meditation. And so our meditation is going to be about orienting ourselves. Go ahead, create your comfortable seat. Feel free to lean against a wall or use a chair. And to start with, we'll keep our eyes open and allow yourself to orient yourself just in the room that you're in. Maybe you can look at your relationship between yourself and other objects. You can look at your relationship between yourself. Maybe there's another person or a pet or plants that are in your room. And then in relation to some things that are outside of your room. If you've got a window open or you can see out the window, just orienting yourself in relationship to what's outside. And then we'll start to orient yourself to yourself. Where can you feel your body touching itself? It's the armpits. Maybe the lips are closed or the eyes are closed. And then anywhere where you can touch the floor. And we'll include the chair or whatever you're seated on as the floor and the ground. And we'll start to peel back some other layers. Noticing the muscles. Just search around the body for any tension. And now's a great time to roll or move to release tension. And slowly peel back to the breath. Take a moment, if you want to close the eyes, or even take your hands to the chest so you can feel the breath. Cool inhale and warm exhale. And now take a moment to go even further and maybe find the beat of your heart, the pulse in the body. You might feel it in your feet, your hands. You can even palpitate around the neck or the wrist to find your heartbeat. See if you can stay with that pulse in the body and maybe holding the two feelings of the breath and the pulse in tandem. Take another moment to create those two symphonies happening at the same time. And then start to reorient yourself to the land that you're on. If you want to look out the window again, go right ahead. And as you're orienting yourself to the land, just acknowledge maybe who was here 100 years ago. If you're indigenous to the land, it could be your own ancestors. And if you're not, it's all right. We'll just start to work these two ideas of ancestry in tandem. So 100 years ago, think about where your ancestors were and the land that they were on, and who was indigenous to that land. Maybe it was them. Come back to where you are and think further back, 500 years ago. What are the sights, smells? What can you visualize and imagine? Start to stitch back to your own ancestry, 500 years, to the land that you're on. And just notice how you're creating these two identities in tandem, where you are, where you're oriented, and then your own ancestry. Take another moment just to allow those sensations and feelings, visualizations to come up. And it could be maybe a little uncomfortable. So allow for the discomfort. And see if you can sink more deeply into this idea of tandem ancestry. Indigenous to where you are. And then working your way back through your own ancestry, stitching both of these together. When you're ready, we're going to explore the whimsy of the storyteller painting. Just notice all around the outside of Coyote, our storyteller, there's different imagery. And we're looking at, the first thing you might see are these houses or trailers, movable homes, right? Mobile home. And orient yourself to the land and the ancestry. Who is here? Where have you traveled from? And then start to notice that there's different iconography. Some of it's appropriation, clearly, of these headdresses. You might even notice one of the, I can't remember whether I think it's a baseball team. There's also this multi-dimensional breaking down of an iron. It seems to me that Coyote is making some choices about what stories to bring up. There's also some really great little icons of Alice in Wonderland. So Neal Ambrose-Smith is exploring this idea of multi-dimensions, of layering different possibilities and realities on top of one another, which is both really cool to think about. Like, what if you'd made a left turn instead of a right? That kind of an idea. The butterfly flaps its wings, that kind of an idea. And right in the center of this universe is Coyote creating the story, both wearing a suit and a jacket, and also contemplating in his traditional coyote head form. Just check out the different little icons here, all these houses of possibility. And hopefully, we're starting to feel a lightness about how we can have two realities at the same time. That you might have two languages, or again, that ancestry living on this land, but stitching back to your own people, your own experience of ancestors. So one thing that Neal Ambrose-Smith does is that he has these different ideas that he kind of drops into all of his other artwork. We'll see the Alice in Wonderland. We'll also see he's got this really interesting doodle. It might be hard to see here, but these things show up over and over and over again. And what I'm going to invite you to do is, if you can't come to the art museum to have this sort of hide and seek, or I don't know what what is it called?
I Spy.
I Spy. That's a good one, like an I Spy. But if you can, or even if you just want to look through the video and at the different paintings, see if you can find a March hare, another coyote, Neal's doodle, which he's put into neon, which is very cool to look at, the iron. One of my favorite, as we were talking about this known universe, the multiverse, is from Star Trek. So there's a Starship Enterprise. There's canoes. There's the badger, which has also been reinvented. So the traditional idea of the badger as a character, just like coyote. More trailers, and then, of course, the headdress. To end, I'm going to have you go back into that sense of orienting yourself. Take another moment. Feel your body settle down. And a reflection on maybe a new sensation or a new idea of what it means to be on ancestral land. Maybe a new connection to your own ancestors as you reimagine and visualize the past. Something new or exciting that you thought of, and maybe something that you're looking forward to. I appreciate that you've joined me for this embodied engagement. Thank you so very much.